So it's time to take another delve into the morning papers. Here with me reviewing them this morning are Marianne Hotter and Matthew Stadland. So welcome back to both of you. We dealt with a number of the front pages last hour, so we're going to dive inside. And Marianne, well, actually, this is a front page story. What am I saying? We're going back to the front page of the FT to start with, aren't we? We will go inside later. I want to fulfil my promises. Their main story focuses on Thames Water, which we've talked about a lot this week. Real worries about its financial stability. But the headline certainly suggests good news for Thames Water with an investor coming in behind it.
It's a really interesting story, and it's not just about the kind of like hard financials. So the university superannuation scheme, a big pension scheme that is worth £90 billion and owns a 20% stake in Thames Water, have basically come out publicly backing the plan for Thames Water. They're saying, we're with you, we back the change. Thames Water are currently looking for to raise funds, basically, from either government as a bailout, basically, or from existing shareholders to keep going. But what's perhaps more interesting is that Liv Garfield, who's the CEO of Severn Trent Water, has there was an email that was leaked inviting all the other heads of all the other water companies to an informal, off-the-record round table to discuss the future of the water industry, saying maybe we need to think about reinventing water and utilities companies as, quote, social purpose companies. Now, what's a social purpose company? One that can make, this is Liv Garfield's interpretation, one that can make profit, that continues to be privately owned, but has some kind of special duty to take the long-term view. Obviously, all the water companies are responding to increasing noisy public pressure that their management of the water in the system, pipe leakage throughout the system, and massive dumps of raw sewage into water bodies and rivers and the sea is utterly unacceptable. Apparently, Labour do not want to nationalise. They don't want to run a manifesto pledge that they would bring water companies back under public ownership, but do want something to change. And what's really interesting is that even Conservative voters, there was a survey run in 2022 by YouGov, even Conservative voters, more than 58% of them want water to be brought back under public control, so want nationalisation of water companies. So this is very interesting for the long term, medium term, looking at what the different political parties have in manifesto pledges, but also how the actual businesses respond to this growing pressure that the status quo cannot continue.
Yeah, and a lot of public interest, as you say, in this, because they feel they're really affected. Do you want to come in there?
No, just it's a huge story. It'd be very interesting to see how Labour respond to this, because if they become the next party of government, it's going to become their problem. It's a toxic issue. Again, no pun intended, but this fits into what is real public anger over the issues with sewage in our rivers, on our beaches. And also when homes get flooded, as they did not so long ago in London, for example, you ask the public, many of them will probably blame the Conservatives because they've been in power for 13 years. You ask Conservatives, and they'll probably, in fact, I think they do blame the Victorians. This is something that really needs to be sorted out, because having a water system that works, I think we can all agree, is fairly fundamental to a functioning country.
OK, well, yes, and we'll see what lines the different parties take on what to do next. In the meantime, take us to the Telegraph, will you? Because there's an extraordinary headline there, Matthew, on its front page.
Yeah, the French police at war with vermin as rioting spreads across the nation, and you wonder whether this has been mistranslated. You rather hope it might be. You wonder whether this is a sensationalist headline, but then you delve into the article itself, and this quote is attributed to two of France's top police unions at us. So the Alliance Police Nationale and the UNSA Police suggested the response had been far too weak. And then they used these words, at war with vermin. There's clearly fear in France at the moment, not just in the general population, but amongst police forces. President Macron has resisted so far quite intense calls, I think, for calling a state of emergency. I don't think there has been one since the race riots of 2005. This is a story that affects us just across the channel because so many people will be heading to France, summer holidays coming up, second most popular destination after Spain, and the question is it safe to go? The Foreign Office has now issued a warning. It seems to be common sense, but people should go onto the Foreign Office website just to check. I mean, things like avoid the hotspots, obviously, and it's unpredictable when and where the rioting will take place.
Yeah, that's right, and it says just stay in touch with the media and stay away from the riots. Basically, I think is a summary of the Foreign Office advice, but clearly watching it very closely. Take us to The Guardian next. I think we are going inside now. I said we'd do inside stories. There's one, Marianne. This is about, today is the Pride in London March, isn't it? Today, and Just Stop Oil. They're not saying they're going to disrupt it, but they said they might. Is that right, Marianne?
Yes, that's right. So this is a comment piece by a writer called James Greig, and it's off the back of this public announcement that Just Stop Oil said, we might not disturb Pride, but we might do. What we need you to do, it's basically a kind of an ultimatum. What we need you to do is be transparent about what money you do or don't accept and from whom and why and how those decisions are made. This is because the headline sponsor for Pride in London 2023 is United Airlines, an airline. They want a public statement demanding from Pride, from the organisers of Pride, saying that they demand no new oil and gas development. And they also, Just Stop Oil, want to have a public meeting with volunteers from Pride about climate justice. Now, the argument is this the wokes tearing each other apart? Or is it a legitimate target for Just Stop Oil, an LGBTQI plus march? Or do these things need to sort of stay in their lane and stay separate as different issues? James Greig, I think, very candidly and eloquently argues that actually many of the enemies for social justice in terms of gender and sexuality and gender equality are the same enemies against climate. So we need to unite, and it's perfectly
we're out of time.
legit.
Thanks both.